Introduction. Friends, 2,500 years ago, a Chinese general sat down and wrote a book. It was not a long book. It takes less than 2 hours to read. And yet, it has never been out of print. Emperors studied it. Napoleon studied it. Generals across every war in history kept it close. And today, the most successful business leaders, athletes, negotiators, and strategists on the planet still return to it. Why? Because Sun Tzu did not write a book about war. He wrote a book about winning, about strategy, about understanding the nature of any conflict, any competition, any challenge, any goal you are trying to achieve, and navigating it with intelligence rather than brute force. This is The Art of War by Sun Tzu. And by the end of this video, every room you walk into, every challenge you face, every competition you enter, you will see it with completely different eyes. Welcome to the 30-Minute Mentor. Foundation. Friends, before we go inside the 13 chapters, let me tell you what this book actually is. Sun Tzu was a military general in ancient China during the period known as the Warring States, a time when dozens of kingdoms were in constant conflict, and the difference between victory and annihilation was the quality of your strategy. He distilled everything he had learned about human nature, about deception, about preparation, about the relationship between strength and weakness, into 13 short chapters. Each chapter is a principle, and together, they form the most complete philosophy of strategic thinking ever written. The key insight that runs through every single page is this: the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. Not to be the strongest, not to be the most aggressive, but to be so strategically superior that your opponent has no choice but to yield. That idea, applied to your career, your relationships, your goals, your daily challenges, changes everything. Let us go inside all 13 chapters, now. Chapter 1, Laying Plans. Friends, Sun Tzu opens the entire book with one of the most important statements in strategic thinking. All warfare is based on deception. At first glance, this sounds cynical, but Sun Tzu is not telling you to be dishonest. He is pointing to something far more profound. He is saying every strategic situation is a game of perception management, of appearing to be what you are not, of letting your opponent believe they understand your position while you operate from a completely different reality. He says when you are strong, appear weak. When you are ready, appear unprepared. When you are near, appear far. When you are far, appear near. Think about how a chess grandmaster operates. They are never showing you what they are actually doing. Every move that appears to be about that rook is actually about a position 6 moves later. Every sacrifice is actually a setup. The board you see is never the game being played. Sun Tzu says planning is everything, and the quality of your planning determines the quality of your outcome before the first action is ever taken. He identifies 5 fundamental factors that determine who wins any conflict. The moral law, the degree to which your people believe in your cause. An army that believes in what it is fighting for will outperform a larger army that does not, every time. Heaven, timing, the conditions of the moment, understanding when conditions favor you and when they do not. Earth, the terrain, the practical environment in which you are operating. The commander, the leader, their wisdom, courage, discipline, and humanity. Method and discipline, the systems and structures that allow organized, coordinated action. Sun Tzu says, the general who has studied all 5 factors will win. The general who has not will lose, and this calculation can be made before the first battle is fought. Reflective question. Think about your most important current challenge. Have you truly studied all 5 factors, your cause, your timing, your environment, your own qualities, and your systems? Or have you just started moving without a real plan? Actionable takeaway. Before your next major decision, write down Sun Tzu's 5 factors and honestly assess your position against each one. The weakest factor is where your preparation needs to go. Chapter 1, Recap. All strategy begins with honest planning. Know yourself, know your conditions, know your opponent, and the outcome can often be predicted before you begin. Chapter 2, WAGNG War. Friends, Chapter 2 contains a warning that most ambitious people completely ignore. And it is one of the most relevant lessons in this entire book for modern life. Sun Tzu writes, "There is no instance of a country having benefited from prolonged warfare." What does this mean for you? It means the longer a campaign goes on, the more it costs you. Not just in money, in energy, in focus, in morale, in the other opportunities you are missing while this one drags on. Think about what happens when you pursue a goal inefficiently. You start strong, full of energy, full of conviction, but as weeks turn into months and the goal feels no closer, something happens. Your energy depletes, your focus scatters, your enthusiasm fades, and by the time you eventually either succeed or give up, you are exhausted in a way that affects every other area of your life. Sun Tzu calls this the danger of prolonged campaigns, and his solution is not to give up. It is to be brutally efficient. He says, move quickly, decisively, and with full commitment. Do not half-start and then drag your feet. Do not begin without the resources to finish. The general who wins quickly wins completely. The general who wins slowly, even in victory, has been weakened. He also introduces a principle here that military strategists have used for centuries. Live off the land of the enemy. In modern terms, do not build everything from scratch when resources are available in the environment around you. Use what already exists. Learn from competitors. Use partnerships. Leverage existing platforms and audiences rather than trying to create everything independently. The entrepreneur who builds on existing infrastructure grows faster than the one who insists on inventing everything from the ground up. Reflective question. Where in your life right now are you waging a prolonged, resource-draining campaign that you could either complete more decisively or abandon entirely? Actionable takeaway. Identify your one most important goal right now. Set a specific 30-day sprint. Commit fully for 30 days with maximum intensity. Review the result. A decisive short campaign always beats a half-hearted long one. Friends, we have covered laying plans and waging war. 2 chapters that change how you prepare and how you act. But Chapter 3, the chapter coming right now, contains what many scholars consider the single most important insight in the entire book. An idea so powerful and so counterintuitive that most people never fully grasp it. It starts with one sentence that will stop you completely. Stay with me. Chapter 3, Attack by Stratagem. Friends, the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. Read that again. Without fighting. This is the central philosophy of the entire book, and it is completely opposed to how most people approach conflict and competition. Most people, when facing an obstacle or an opponent, immediately reach for force, for argument, for aggression, for direct confrontation. Sun Tzu says that is the inferior approach. The superior approach is to position yourself so well, to understand the situation so completely, to make your move so precisely, that your opponent has no meaningful choice but to yield. He ranks 5 outcomes from best to worst. The best outcome: break the enemy's resistance without fighting through pure strategic superiority. The second best: attack the enemy's strategy, neutralize their plan before it can be executed. The third best: attack their alliances, isolate them from their support. The fourth and worst: attack their armies directly in battle. He writes, to fight and conquer in all your battles is not supreme excellence. Supreme excellence consists in breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. Think about how this applies to business. The entrepreneur who builds something so uniquely valuable that competitors cannot meaningfully respond has won without fighting. The negotiator who understands what the other party truly wants and structures a deal that genuinely serves both sides has won without fighting. The person who builds such a strong reputation that opportunities come to them rather than being chased has won without fighting. Sun Tzu then gives us the most cited formula in the entire book. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory you will suffer a defeat. If you know neither yourself nor the enemy, you will succumb in every battle. Reflective question: in your most important current challenge, how deeply do you actually know your own position? Your real strengths and weaknesses, your actual resources, your genuine motivations, and how deeply do you know your environment, your competition, your audience, your market? Actionable takeaway: this week, Spend 30 minutes writing honestly about both sides of this equation. What do you genuinely know about yourself in this challenge? And what do you genuinely know about the forces opposing you? The gaps in that analysis are where your preparation needs to go. Chapter 3 Recap. The highest form of strategy is winning without direct conflict. Know yourself and your opponent completely, and victory becomes predictable rather than uncertain. Chapter 4 Tactical Dispositions. Friends, Chapter 4 introduces a principle that most ambitious people get completely backwards. Sun Tzu writes, "The good fighters of old first put themselves beyond the possibility of defeat, and then waited for an opportunity to defeat the enemy." First, make yourself invincible, then look for the opportunity to win. Most people do the opposite. They charge toward the opportunity before they have made themselves secure. They launch before they are ready. They attack before their defenses are built. Think about the difference between a chess player who builds a strong position before attacking, and one who attacks immediately without securing their own pieces first. The first player, when they attack, does so from a position of strength. If the attack fails, they are still secure. They can try again. The second player, when their attack fails, and it often does, has left themselves exposed. What was meant to be a winning move has become a vulnerability. Sun Tzu says, "Invincibility lies in yourself. The opportunity for victory lies in the opponent." You can control your own preparation. You cannot control when your opponent makes a mistake. So make yourself ready, make yourself strong, make yourself invincible in your own domain. And then, when the opportunity appears, you will be perfectly positioned to take it. He also introduces the concept of the inexorable nature of a winning force. When a great general's army is in motion, its momentum is like rolling boulders from a mountain height, not because the boulders are large, but because gravity, the accumulated preparation and positioning, makes them unstoppable. Your preparation is your gravity. Build it long enough, and when you move, nothing can stop you. Reflective question: in your most important goal right now, have you truly made yourself invincible first? Or are you attacking before your foundation is secure? Actionable takeaway: identify the one area of your own preparation, your skill, your systems, your resources, that if strengthened would make your position genuinely unassailable. Focus there before you advance. Friends, 4 chapters in, we have covered planning, efficiency, the art of winning without fighting, and building an unassailable position. Now Sun Tzu moves into something that completely changed how military history understood force and momentum. The concept of strategic energy. The difference between a general who uses brute force and one who harnesses the natural power of the situation itself. This chapter, Chapter 5, is one of the most studied sections of the entire book. Chapter 5, Energy. Friends, Sun Tzu introduces a concept in Chapter 5 that has no perfect English translation. He calls it Qi, and it means something like the natural energy or momentum stored in a perfectly positioned force. He writes, "The energy developed by good fighting men is as the momentum of a round stone rolled down a mountain thousands of feet in height." Think about a crossbow pulled back to its maximum tension. In that moment, before the arrow is released, an enormous amount of potential energy has been accumulated, not through the act of firing, through the act of drawing. The soldier who fires a crossbow does not create the energy in the moment of release. They release what was already stored, what was built through careful, sustained preparation. This is Qi. And Sun Tzu says the great general does not create force through aggression. They create force through positioning, preparation, and timing. And then, when the moment is exactly right, they release what has already been built. He distinguishes between 2 types of forces in battle. Zheng, the direct force, the conventional attack, the expected move, the thing your opponent is prepared for. Qi, the extraordinary force, the unexpected, the surprise, the move that comes from a direction nobody anticipated. Sun Tzu says, you use Zheng to engage, you use Qi to win. You keep the opponent occupied with the expected, while the real decisive action comes from the unexpected direction entirely. Think about how this works in modern competition. A business that competes directly with established players on their own terms, using Zheng alone, will rarely win. But the business that engages conventionally while simultaneously building something entirely new and unexpected can disrupt an entire industry without the incumbent seeing it coming. Apple did not defeat Nokia by making better mobile phones. They released something Nokia had no framework to respond to. Reflective question: where in your current strategy are you relying entirely on direct force, doing what everyone else is doing, competing on the same terms, using only Zheng? And where could you introduce a chi move that your opponents are completely unprepared for? Actionable takeaway: think of one unexpected move, one unconventional action that nobody in your space is currently doing. That is your chi. Consider how to develop it quietly while continuing your conventional engagement. Chapter 5 Recap: true strategic energy is built through preparation and positioning, then released at the perfect moment. Use direct force to engage, use the unexpected move to win. Chapter 6 Weak Points and Strong. Friends, Chapter 6 contains some of the most practically applicable wisdom in the entire book. Sun Tzu writes, "You may advance and be absolutely irresistible if you make for the enemy's weak points." The principle sounds obvious, but its application is where most people fail entirely. He uses the image of water. Military tactics are like water, for water in its natural course runs away from high places and hastens downwards. So in war, the way is to avoid what is strong and to strike what is weak. Water does not fight a rock, it flows around it. It finds the path of least resistance, and over time it carves canyons through the hardest stone. The general who throws their force against an opponent's strongest point loses resources, loses momentum, and often loses the battle. The general who identifies the weak point, the gap, the vulnerability, the undefended position, and concentrates their force there wins with far less cost. Sun Tzu also introduces the concept of initiative here. Whoever holds the initiative controls the battle. The general who forces the opponent to respond rather than act, who makes the opponent come to them, maintains the strategic advantage throughout. He writes, "He who is skilled in attack flashes forth from the topmost heights of heaven, making it impossible for the enemy to guard against him." In modern terms, the person who sets the agenda in any negotiation holds the power. The business that defines the terms of competition in their market wins. The leader who frames the conversation controls the outcome. Force the opponent to come to you. Make them respond to your moves rather than you responding to theirs. Reflective question: in your most important current competition or challenge, who currently holds the initiative? Who is responding to whom? And what would it take for you to seize the initiative and make others respond to you? Actionable takeaway: identify your opponent's weakest point in your current challenge, the gap in their offering, the unmet need in the market, the argument they have not prepared for. Focus your next major action there entirely. Friends, we are now past the halfway point of this extraordinary book. The first 6 chapters were about strategy, how to plan, position, and attack. The next 7 chapters go somewhere different. They go into specifics, into the terrain, into the intelligence, into the psychology of the people you are leading. And Chapter 7, coming right now, addresses the hardest part of any campaign. The chaos of real conditions, the moment when the perfect plan meets the messy reality. Chapter 7, Manoeuvring. Friends, Sun Tzu writes in Chapter 7, "In war, the general receives his commands from the sovereign, collects his army, and concentrates his forces. Nothing is more difficult than the tactics of maneuvering." Why is maneuvering the most difficult thing? Because it is the moment when theory meets reality. You have planned beautifully, you have positioned carefully, you have studied the terrain. And then the conditions change. The enemy moves unexpectedly. The weather turns. The supply lines get disrupted. The terrain looks different up close than it did on the map. And now you must adapt, in real time, under pressure, while keeping your force coordinated and your people motivated. Sun Tzu introduces 2 critical principles here. The first is the concept of turning disadvantage into advantage. He says the wise general learns to see opportunity in every setback. The army that appears delayed is actually waiting for the right moment. The retreat that appears to be weakness is actually a repositioning. What looks like loss from the outside can be, from the inside, the most deliberate and strategic movement of the entire campaign. The second principle is the management of morale and psychology in the force itself. He writes, "Ponder and deliberate before you make a move. He will conquer who has learnt the artifice of deviation." The deviation, the willingness to take a longer, harder, more indirect route to reach your objective, is often the only path to a position your opponent cannot defend. The direct path is always guarded. The indirect path, the one nobody expects you to take, is almost always open. Think about the careers of the most successful people you know. Rarely did they arrive directly. They zigged when everyone expected them to zag. They entered through a side door that nobody was watching. They built expertise in an area nobody valued until suddenly everyone did. Reflective question: where in your current journey are you insisting on the direct path, the conventional route, when an indirect approach might be both available and undefended? Actionable takeaway: identify one indirect approach to your most important goal that you have not yet tried because it seemed too unconventional or too slow. Consider whether that indirectness might actually be its greatest advantage. Chapter 8, Variation in TACTICS. Friends, Chapter 8 is short, and it delivers one of the most important lessons in the book in just a few lines. Sun Tzu writes, "The general who advances without coveting fame and retreats without fearing disgrace, whose only thought is to protect his country and do good service for his sovereign, is the jewel of the kingdom." And there are roads which must not be followed, armies which must not be attacked, towns which must not be besieged, positions which must not be contested. The wisdom here is profound. Not every battle should be fought. Most people lack the discipline to walk away from a battle they know they can win, but should not enter. The subordinate who wins an argument with their boss and loses the relationship. The entrepreneur who defeats a competitor on a point of principle and destroys the partnership opportunity. The negotiator who gets the better deal and poisons the long-term relationship in the process. Knowing which battles not to fight, which roads not to follow, is as important as knowing how to win. Sun Tzu also warns against 5 dangerous faults in a commander. Recklessness, which leads to destruction. Cowardice, which leads to capture. A hasty temper, which can be provoked by insults. A delicacy of honor, which is sensitive to shame. Oversolicitude for men, which exposes to worry and trouble. Read those again for yourself. Reflective question: which of these 5 faults, recklessness, cowardice, temper, wounded pride, or excessive caution for others, is most likely to undermine your strategic decisions? Actionable takeaway: write down the one battle in your current life that you keep fighting but probably should not. Identify what it is actually costing you, in energy, in time, in relationships, and make a deliberate decision about whether it is truly worth continuing. Chapters 7-8 recap. Great strategy requires adaptability in real conditions. Not every battle should be fought. Know when to advance, when to deviate, and when to walk away completely. Friends, 2 chapters remain in the tactical section of this book, and both of them deal with something that most people think of as a soft skill, but Sun Tzu considered a hard strategic advantage. The terrain beneath your feet, the people around you, the intelligence you gather. These 3 things, Chapter 9, 10, and 11 will show you are not secondary considerations. They are everything. Chapter 9, The Army on the March. Friends, Chapter 9 is perhaps the most practical chapter in the entire book. Sun Tzu spends it teaching one skill above all others: the ability to read your environment. He gives dozens of specific examples, all drawn from his experience of actual military campaigns, of how to read the signs that the environment provides. If birds gather over a position, the position is unoccupied. If there is movement in the trees and undergrowth, the enemy is advancing. If the enemy suddenly offers a truce without cause, they are plotting something. If their words are humble but preparations increase, they are about to attack. If their words are strong but preparations decrease, they are about to retreat. Now, Sun Tzu is not teaching you to watch birds and trees. He is teaching you the deeper skill underneath these examples. Pay attention. Read the signs. The environment is always telling you what is happening if you are sufficiently alert to receive the information. He writes, "If you know the enemy and know yourself, your victory will not stand in doubt. If you know heaven and know earth, you may make your victory complete." Heaven and earth, timing and terrain, the conditions of the moment and the practical realities of the environment. These are the completion of the self-knowledge and opponent knowledge we discussed in Chapter 3. In modern terms, the person who reads their environment, who pays attention to signals in their market, their organization, their relationships, before those signals become obvious to everyone, holds a crucial information advantage. The manager who sees the cultural shift in their team before it becomes a crisis. The entrepreneur who spots the emerging consumer behavior before it becomes a trend. The investor who reads the signals in the market before they become news. Reflective question: what signals is your environment sending you right now that you have been too busy or too comfortable to truly pay attention to? Actionable takeaway: spend 30 minutes this week in deliberate observation rather than action. Watch your environment, your market, your team, your relationships without doing anything. Just observe. Notice what the signals are telling you. Chapter 10, Terrain. Friends, Chapter 10 identifies 6 types of terrain and the different strategic approach each one requires. But before we go into them, Sun Tzu makes a statement that is the most personally challenging line in the entire book. He writes, "When the general is weak and without authority, when his orders are not clear and distinct, when there are no fixed duties assigned to officers and men, and the ranks are formed in a slovenly, haphazard manner, the result is utter disorganization. And then, it is the business of a general to be quiet and thus ensure secrecy, upright and just and thus maintain order, able to mystify his officers and men by false reports and appearances, and thus keep them in total ignorance." The point Sun Tzu is making is this: the quality of your leadership determines the quality of your army. Every problem you see in those around you, every failure of coordination, every lack of discipline, every inconsistent performance, is ultimately a reflection of the quality of leadership they are receiving. This is uncomfortable, because it means the fix is almost always internal before it is external. The 6 terrains he identifies: accessible, entangling, temporizing, narrow, precipitous, and distant, all require different tactics. And the general who uses the same approach regardless of terrain will fail in most of them. In modern terms, the strategy that works in a startup does not work in a corporation. The approach that succeeds in a growing market fails in a shrinking one. The communication style that works with one team fails with another. Adapt to your terrain, not to what you wish the terrain were, to what it actually is. Reflective question: are you currently applying the same strategy, the same approach, the same style, regardless of the terrain you are actually operating in? And what would genuine adaptation to your actual terrain look like? Actionable takeaway: identify the terrain you are actually in right now. Is it accessible, restricted, competitive, expansive? And ask honestly, is your current approach designed for this actual terrain or for a different one you wish you were in? Chapter 11, The 9 Situations. Friends, Chapter 11 is the longest chapter in the art of war, and it contains one of the most counterintuitive ideas Sun Tzu ever wrote. He identifies 9 types of ground, 9 strategic situations, and describes the appropriate response to each. But the idea that stops most readers completely is this: throw your soldiers into positions where there is no escape and they will prefer death to flight. If they will face death, there is nothing they cannot achieve. Officers and men alike will put forth their uttermost strength. Place your people, place yourself, in a situation from which there is no retreat, and watch what becomes possible. This is the principle of the death ground. The most famous example in history. In 1519, the Spanish explorer Hernán Cortés arrived in Mexico with a small force facing a vastly larger opponent. His first act upon landing was to burn the ships. There would be no retreat, there would be no escape. His men had one option: forward. Cortés understood what Sun Tzu had written nearly 2,000 years earlier. Humans perform at levels they are not normally capable of when retreat is impossible. The burning of the ships is not recklessness. It is the deliberate creation of the conditions under which extraordinary performance becomes the only option. Sun Tzu also covers something deeply human in this chapter: He says the wise general takes care of his soldiers like his own children. He loves them, and therefore he leads them into danger. He values them, and therefore he places them in situations that demand their greatness. The leader who protects their people from all difficulty, who removes every challenge, every risk, every demand, does not produce a great force. They produce a comfortable, complacent one. True care sometimes means demanding the difficult. True love sometimes means refusing to protect people from the growth that hardship produces. Reflective question: where in your life have you been protecting yourself or others from the productive difficulty that would create real growth? And what would burning the ships look like for you right now? Actionable takeaway: identify one specific commitment you could make today that removes your ability to retreat from your most important goal. One action that creates your own death ground. Make that commitment this week. Chapter 11 Recap. The 9 situations demand 9 different responses. The most powerful insight: place yourself on death ground where retreat is impossible and discover what you are truly capable of. Friends, 2 chapters remain. And Sun Tzu ends this extraordinary book not with grand philosophy, but with 2 of the most practical, most ruthlessly effective subjects in all of strategy: fire and intelligence, both of which, applied to modern life, are more relevant today than they have ever been. Chapter 12, The Attack by Fire. Friends, Chapter 12 is about fire, but the lesson is about the nature of decisive, irreversible action. Sun Tzu identifies 5 ways to use fire as a weapon, but the deeper lesson he draws from it is this: move not unless you see an advantage. Use not your troops unless there is something to be gained. Fight not unless the position is critical. And a leader who acts out of anger rather than calculation will regret it. A sovereign who moves for revenge rather than strategic advantage will fail. Fire once lit cannot be recalled. An action taken in anger once executed cannot be undone. Sun Tzu is warning against the seductive power of destructive emotional action. There are moments in any competition, any conflict, any challenge, when anger, wounded pride, or the desire for revenge creates an almost irresistible urge to act, to burn something down, to strike back. And sometimes, fire is exactly the right tool, but only when the calculation is clear, only when the advantage is real, only when the strategic outcome justifies the irreversibility of the action. The general who burns the enemy's supply depot and wins the campaign is a genius. The general who burns it because they were insulted and extends the war by months is a fool. Reflective question: is there a decision you are currently being tempted to make from anger, wounded pride, or the desire for revenge rather than from genuine strategic calculation? What does the calculation without the emotion actually suggest? Actionable takeaway: before any significant irreversible action, wait 24 hours. Remove the emotion from the analysis entirely. Then ask, does this action genuinely serve my strategic objective, or does it only feel satisfying right now? Chapter 13, The Use of Spies. Friends, Sun Tzu ends the entire book with a chapter about intelligence, about information, about knowing. And his opening statement tells you exactly why he placed this chapter last. Foreknowledge cannot be elicited from spirits. It cannot be obtained inductively from experience, nor by any deductive calculation. Knowledge of the enemy's dispositions can only be obtained from other men. Knowledge, real, specific, actionable knowledge about your situation, is the supreme strategic resource. Everything else in this book, all the tactics, all the maneuvers, all the principles, depends on the quality of your information. Sun Tzu identifies 5 types of spies: local spies, inward spies, converted spies, doomed spies, and surviving spies. And he says, a general who uses all 5 types in coordination creates an intelligence network that makes them virtually impossible to defeat. The entire secret intelligence apparatus of the modern world, the CIA, MI6, Mossad, is built on principles that Sun Tzu outlined 25 centuries ago. But the lesson for modern life is not about actual espionage. It is about the supreme value of genuine, first-hand knowledge. The entrepreneur who actually talks to customers, rather than assuming what they want, builds something that sells. The leader who actually walks the floor, who speaks to their people at every level rather than relying on filtered reports, understands what is actually happening in their organization. The negotiator who has genuinely researched the other party, their real interests, their real pressures, their real constraints, conducts a completely different negotiation. Sun Tzu writes, "Hence it is only the enlightened ruler and the wise general who will use the highest intelligence of the army for purposes of spying, and thereby they achieve great results." Intelligence is not dishonest. It is necessary. It is the foundation beneath all other strategy. And the person who invests in genuinely understanding their situation, rather than assuming, guessing, or projecting, operates with an advantage that no amount of effort or aggression can overcome. Reflective question. In your most important current challenge, how much of your understanding of the situation is based on genuine first-hand knowledge? And how much is assumption, hope, or incomplete information? Actionable takeaway. Identify one area of genuine intelligence you are currently missing. Go and get it this week. Talk to someone directly. Research specifically. Gather the real information rather than operating on assumption. Then notice how your strategy changes. Chapter 13 Recap. Foreknowledge is the supreme resource. All strategy depends on the quality of your intelligence. Invest in genuine understanding, and every other principle in this book becomes more powerful. Conclusion. Friends, let us come home. 2,500 years ago, a general sat down and wrote a book about war. And what he actually wrote, as we have seen together today, is a complete philosophy of winning, of navigating any challenge, of understanding any competition, of leading any endeavor. Let me give you the complete essence one final time. Chapter 1, Laying Plans. All victory begins with honest, thorough preparation. Know your 5 factors before you move. Chapter 2, Waging War. Campaigns that drag on are always costly. Move decisively and efficiently or do not begin. Chapter 3, Attack by Stratagem. The supreme achievement is winning without fighting. Know yourself and your opponent completely. Chapter 4, Tactical Dispositions. First, make yourself invincible, then wait for the opportunity to defeat your opponent. Chapter 5, Energy. Build strategic momentum through positioning and timing. Use direct force to engage, use the unexpected move to win. Chapter 6, Weak Points and Strong. Flow like water, avoid strength, strike weakness, seize and hold the initiative. Chapter 7, Manoeuvring. Adapt in real conditions. Turn disadvantage into advantage. The indirect path is often the only one that is unguarded. Chapter 8, Variation in Tactics. Not every battle should be fought. Know which roads not to follow. Chapter 9, The Army on the March. Read your environment. The signals are always there for those who are paying attention. Chapter 10, Terrain. The quality of leadership determines the quality of the army. Adapt your strategy to your actual terrain, not the terrain you wish you were in. Chapter 11, The 9 Situations. Place yourself on death ground where retreat is impossible, and discover what you are truly capable of. Chapter 12, The Attack by Fire. Never act from anger when calculation is available. Irreversible actions demand irreversible clarity. Chapter 13, The Use of Spies. Foreknowledge is the supreme strategic resource. Invest in genuine intelligence, and all other strategy becomes more powerful. Friends, The Art of War is not a book about war. It is a book about thinking, about seeing clearly, about understanding the nature of any situation you find yourself in, and navigating it with intelligence, patience, and strategic precision. Sun Tzu's greatest lesson, the one that runs through all 13 chapters, is this: the warrior who wins is not always the strongest, or the most aggressive, or the most eager to fight. The warrior who wins is the one who understands the situation most completely and moves most precisely. That warrior can be you. Friends, I want to ask you one specific question. Of all 13 chapters, which single principle do you most need to apply to your life right now? Is it the self-knowledge of Chapter 3, the invincibility of Chapter 4, the death ground of Chapter 11, the foreknowledge of Chapter 13? Drop it in the comments and tell me why that specific chapter speaks to your situation. I read every single comment, and your answer helps me choose what to cover next. Subscribe to the 30-Minute Mentor and hit the bell icon. Every week, a new book, a new perspective, a new strategic edge. Because the most powerful weapon you will ever own is a well-trained mind. Use it wisely,